like you guys, and great book, and also speaker. So today's book study is very special because we never talked about food. It lasts 4 years. I don't know why we didn't, but I'm so happy. Rachel and Jess Thompson just published a new book, cookbook, Korean cookbook. But I should maybe say Korean cookbook.
We'll get into that.
Yeah. It's called My Rice Bowl, Korean Cooking Outside the Lines. So you probably get some idea. So I think we're having a great, speaker today. And Jess and Rachel, as you know, Rachel is a very famous chef in town. And she is the owner of 4 restaurants, including Revelry, which was opened last year in Portland, Oregon, and in Seattle there are 3 restaurants. Probably many of you already, went there and tasted, some food over there: Jewel, Revel, and Tro. So she's also famous, for her 4-time nomination for James Beard Award for Best Chef Northwestern. So I said it right? Because I don't know much about this chef world. So I'm so happy to have these 2 speakers. And Jess Thompson is also award-winning freelance food and travel writer, and her work appeared in many magazines, including New York Times and other cooking related magazines. And also she is author of 7 cookbooks.
We were both professionals, they're working parents, a younger sister. I was doing pretty well in school too. But you know how it is in Korea, doing pretty well is never good enough in Korea.
I think you once told me 98%, maybe better next time.
So my mom has a lot of siblings who have moved to America early on, and she has always been basically looking out for her children, like what kind of life that she will provide for her children. And I think for her, the best thing that she could ever do for her children was to send them to America. It was a practice that was done by a lot of parents back then. Parents sending their kids by themselves, or one of the parents traveling with them to America. And then it's all for basically this amazing American dream of well-rounded education, getting and exploring and seeing everything, and being able to be this complete person that you cannot be in Korea. In Korea, obviously the competition and the college, and then just afterwards, everything is so laid out in a super competitive way. So there's no other exit or no other ways of anyone being anything else. So when I was 15, my mom has basically approached me and saying like, "Hey, I have an opportunity to go to America." For a 15-year-old, that has no consequence. I mean, that sentence does not mean anything as if like, hey, let's go to this Disneyland tomorrow. Sure. She's like, okay. I was like, for me to even the idea of going to America by myself, I had no idea what that meant. So I said yes. Why not? Sure. And my mom was slightly confused and surprised. She thought that she had to, really convince me. She thought that I'll cry and then tell her that I'll stay home. But she's like, oh my gosh, okay, here we go. And then from there, the process went really fast. So fast forward, so I was in Westchester, New York. I was living with my aunts and my 5 cousins there. Went to public high school. And
what was that like? I mean, you hadn't exactly prepared to speak English every single day.
No. So in Korea, the English is something you learn from your basically as early as kindergarten down there. But this is how you learn. You learn how do you do? I am fine, thank you. And it's not a speaking language, obviously. And
you're really great. Just when you go to a restaurant after that.
And I think the thing, especially the thing is that I was teenager, I was really shy. I was not a person who would be like, excited to go out to anyone with my broken English or whatnot to like, hey, like, let's play or show me how you're doing. I was silent.
And what about academically?
Academically, it was really hard. This is where you understand like why math is a universal language. Because yes, I was understanding the equation. I was understanding what they meant. But anything beyond that, like history, social studies, English, and all that stuff, was spending my time at ESL for an entire 2 years, kind of getting supplementary help and all that stuff. But this is where I always find it so interesting because you have child too. Because like for me, the fact that I'm always kind of think about like, gosh, how do you push your child at home, right? How do you challenge them, because as a parent, you want them to be challenged, you want your kids to be challenged. And then as a kid, I remember being like, I was just resentful. This is really, really, I hate my life, this is so hard. At school, it was really, I didn't really have friends. I didn't really know what was going on in the classroom. But then I think the fact that I was so trained being in the structure of but you still have to study hard. You don't really have an option of doing anything else but. And so I think I did try hard.
And ultimately, it got you into Brown.
Finally my responsibility was over. All those expectations that your parents had on you. You kind of prove yourself. I've done it. You cannot ask me to do anything more than anything. Right? So
I'm out.
I know. Done. But that's when you realize that Brown actually has a bunch of smart people. It's not easy college that I applied and I got into their early engineering program. And gosh, the first few days I was like, what is going on? This is this is a whole other league. Just because I was Asian, just because I knew a little bit of math, it didn't mean that you were good at math or engineer science and whatnot. So I had to figure out what I wanted to do. I kind of really just coasted my college years. Just kind of I finally found some Korean friends there. I finally was able to just be myself and just being able to just enjoy my college year without the pressure of what you have to be afterwards. Because almost there was already this thing, what my parents' expectation was not what kind of great, interest that you'll be, discovering in college, what kind of, wonderful passion you'll find in college. No, it wasn't
about broadening your horizons.
It was about, you got to college, now probably the only thing left is being a doctor, lawyer,
Finding a husband.
I went to actually art school when I was in Korea, middle school. So the drawing and painting was something that I always enjoyed pretty much. But, obviously, that's not, you don't expect to go to America and go to college and then graduate with fine arts degree and then what, right? So I think
Congratulations, you're a starving artist.
I know. So I graduated and I was still very, very scared. I was scared of being in a room full of people that speak up, I have to talk about my. And to be honest, I think there is, first of all, I think there's a little bit of that luck here, because we have to have a little bit of something extra that that really got us here. But I think the more than anything, when Safe and I, we were probably equally passionate and hardworking as someone next door. But for us, what we really cared for was that we were we were really genuinely basically wanting to do this with the idea of being in the hospitality industry. It was a food in the beginning that we loved to cook and loved to create, but we Safe. If you guys have met Safe in one of their restaurants, he's one of the most basically endearing, earnest person that you can talk to. Meaning, he really absolutely wants you to have a really great time when you come into our restaurant. And I think that idea of just basically kind of having the whole mix of having this American Asian fusion restaurant in the time where Seattle restaurant scene was fairly homogenous. Having this couple who came outside of Seattle, which was pretty rare. Having this couple who were pretty young to do whatever it takes to do it, and being in a Wallingford tiny neighborhood where the whole neighborhood was very supportive. And then for us being there, all the time, we opened basically 6 days, so we can have 1 day off and we'll be working all the time together. And then just really caring about what we do. And I think all of that, coupled with basically the fact that, like, you know, people, for us, it's really hard to say what is enough, right, in the cooking industry. Like, you know, like, if it's 4 restaurants enough, is 3 restaurants enough? Like, for us, what it was basically like, it's the meetings, which is kind of good and bad.
Great. So I think from the public standpoint, you've broken this sort of traditionally male glass ceiling. And, you know, that's exciting to watch, but I think it's also important to recognize that you are also breaking another glass ceiling as an immigrant, and you are still an immigrant. How does that inform your cooking? I guess, can you talk a little bit about how you came to cook Korean food first and how that has changed as you have been sort of brought up in the restaurant world?
Yeah. So, like we were talking about a little bit earlier, that, you know, like, you know, I was basically trained in Italian French kitchen, and then when I was to open a Korean fusion restaurant, so my boss's mother, my employer's mother, was the one who came from Korea, and then she taught me how to make kimchi. She taught me how to make Korean food, and I think that
Because
was
at 25, you had never made kimchi.
I've never made Korean food. I'll make, like, you know, simple stir fries and simple, you know, things at home. But, you know, for me, cooking was like, you know, like French, you know, cuisine is most prestigious and it kind of has technique driven, all that stuff. I truly thought that that's the kind of food that I'll be cooking for the rest of my life. So the fact that I was introduced to this Korean cooking by this, you know, literally a, you know, random lady from Korea.
You had like grandma boot camp.
I know, exactly. That's how I started working Korean, and that's where it really clicked. My gosh, they hired me. Well, and this long story short, because I mean I wasn't supposed to be helping. I wasn't supposed to be the chef. There was someone else. Exactly the direction I want to get from you guys. I want you to read the book and see what's in there. Like, be inspired, and because I mean that's exactly how I would get inspired from looking at someone else's cookbook. It's really, really difficult to sometimes, you know, have the pressure of like, oh, I got this cookbook, I gotta go shopping this giant grocery list to follow this one recipe. No, like someone asked me this morning actually, what is the easiest recipe to do in this book? You know what? Go through the recipes, just browse through, and then like if you find a recipe that has the ingredients that you have at home, that is the easiest recipe for you. Just have to go shopping, because I mean it makes it a lot already really easy, because you are working with the ingredients you already know, and then start building your inventory, start building your pantries, and that's how you can cook. And it's all about basically the reason why it's called my rice bowl is that, you know, Korean rice bowl, bibimbap, it really means mixed rice. This whole book is meant to be your rice bowl. This whole book is meant to be the way how you want to mix it, how you want to blend it, how you want to melt the flavor together to make it your own. Through the Korean cookbook, majority of the recipes you see only require like 7 to 8 ingredients. If you had like 간장, 된장, 고추장, and like 참기름, like 마늘, 생강, like you can literally probably make like 100 different recipes with the same thing. So there's a lot of recipes are actually, the flavors are kind of very repetitive. So the fact that for me to bring a lot of Korean, you know, fusion in that sense, that was a little bit tricky, and I think that's where I started to explore a little further. Also, when we first opened Jewel in Wallingford, that's where, so we're a small 40-seat restaurant, we're tiny, and we really wanted to be a neighborhood restaurant. And then, you know, so Korean food is great, it's a fusion, but at the same time, you know, it could be very unapproachable. I mean, this whole embracing the term fusion, it took a long time for me, because in the beginning I was like, oh no, we're not a fusion restaurant.
That's so 1992.
Yeah, we're a Korean modern restaurant. You know, like I wanted to really kind of like stay away from fusion because of the fact that people do have the connotation. The fusion has the connotation of being, you know, just fussy and messy and, you know, confusing. But like, you know, so that's when we actually decided that we were going to do this something called urban barbecues. We did this Sunday barbecues where we changed the theme every Sunday. And it was insane amount of work because it was just different menu. But then like we were kind of crazy back then.
So you explored different ethnicities every Sunday.
Yeah, so we were doing French, we were doing Italian, we were doing Malaysia, we were doing Philippine. It was just all for us because it was so much fun. We got to explore different cuisine, and we got to and people were just really excited, and they were seeing a little more straightforward food. And the fact that like that's where like it was learning how to do a fusion was because we learned so much from learning and exploring different cuisines, and like it all made sense kind of coming back to the Korean food too. And so that's where the whole mixing and mashing happened.
Okay. So here we go.
안녕하세요.